contributions, highlighting the benefits of workplace as a means of organizational change, perhaps improved organizational performance by increased flexible working through openness and collaboration, and coming up with techniques and standards of measurement developed in conjunction with IPD occupiers. So these are efforts to come up with property cost data, to come up with a performance framework, perhaps measure the effectiveness of the property division. These are all efforts to move up from your corporate or your governmental assets, from being a pure physical asset, but perhaps it can be an operational or even a strategic asset for the government and for the companies for that matter. Related to that would be the issue of benchmarking. And a lot of this topic literature is found in the field of corporate real estate. The main goal of corporate real estate is to be able to align itself with the corporate strategy to minimize inefficiency. And for you to be able to do that, two key factors that you always have to keep in mind are flexibility and productivity. And by keeping those goals in mind, your goal is to reduce cost and perhaps even reduce capital in corporate real estate. And to do that, you want to measure performance or benchmark yourself compared to everyone else. What you're concerned about in this case is operational significance or bottom line. How do you affect the bottom line of the company depending on how you have an effective corporate real estate or facility strategies, and with goals in mind such as flexibility and productivity, you can reduce the overall cost for the company. And for you to be able to do that, you come up with certain benchmarking items, whether it's space standards, you're coming up with an occupancy cost measure. It can be whether cost per square foot, cost per employee. You might even come up with an internal corporate real estate costing type of a policy where you assign certain costs to departments or branches to be included when you measure branch performance. IPD occupiers in the UK have done a lot of work in this area to work with companies to come up with benchmarking. This allows companies to measure performance and perhaps support and align with corporate strategy better. I know that's just a brief introduction in this area. There's a lot of effort, for example, how to best come up with industry standards or best practices or benchmarks within corporate real estate or facilities division. This is my suggested framework in approaching this topic practically. First, because the topic of office environment and work performance varies so much between the type of business you're involved in, I would say the first step is to identify the business at the corporate level and also the business unit level and perhaps even the branch level that you're dealing with. Once you identify the business, then you want to identify the strategic resources for that company or even that business unit or even branch as a whole. Is it the brand? Is it the specialized human capital, for example, very highly skilled labor? Is it certain special process or knowledge or location? Or is the company strategy to provide best cost price type of a approach, a product service offering to the marketplace? Or is it intellectual property? What exactly are the strategic assets for the company? Now, once that becomes identified, then you can categorize the rest as probably operational resources. Once those first and second steps have been accomplished, then your question flows to whether your office or your real estate you're dealing with is supporting the strategic level resources or not. If it does, then your office can have strategic potential. But remember, this is only a derived importance depending on what actual strategic resource you are supporting and how closely connected you are to that strategic assets. And these strategic assets, as I said, are assets such as brand, specialized human capital, is it knowledge, special process. Depending on how closely related the office or your real estate is to those enterprise resources, you may have a derived or indirect strategic potential to the company. It can, depending on what you provide, it can assist in contributing to sustainable competitive advantage for the company. It can also help to create above normal profits. In this kind of a case, cost becomes less of a factor because what you are trying to do is how best support the strategic resources of the company. If the office or the real estate provides a fantastic support or well-aligned support to your strategic resources, then you will bring about a certain level of competitive advantage compared to your peers. The goal for this type of office, this type of real estate or facility, is to provide differentiation compared to other companies in a way that cannot easily be imitated, whether it's design, whether it's providing a special function or special experience. I'll look at an example of that later. If your office or corporate real estate is supporting, on the other hand, operational resources, then it would have an operational importance for the company. What that would mean is essentially efficiency and management are two critical functions. Cost, and comparing that to the benefit delivered or the value delivered, become the number one issue. There's a growing requirement to demonstrate value through performance and impact on operational bottom line. Essentially, this means you want to prove that there is value, but operational value, to the company by incorporating certain measures. The differentiation between one company versus another company would come essentially through value. Perhaps a lot of the operational functions can be outsourced to a specialized facilities management or corporate real estate companies that can provide better value than the company providing for themselves. But these are only to support operational functions, because if they become strategically important, then most likely the companies would want to keep those functions internally. The third would be whether your facilities is just a commodity resource in the line of just being a raw input, for example, storage, call center, manufacturing. In such case, cost is often the most important factor, and it becomes also a differentiating factor compared to all of the other competitors. So with this framework in mind, you can probably approach how do I best analyze the relationship between the office environment and the office performance. What would be the best way to find a linkage between strategies? What would be the best way to come up with appropriate benchmarks? With those in mind, I'd like to talk about the issue of location. Location is an important factor because it can span from the top, being strategic, operational, or just mere physical. Normally, corporate real estate or offices become inherently strategic only in rare circumstances. Most oftentimes, it's supporting a strategic enterprise of the company. It's never really inherently strategic themselves, except in cases when location becomes involved, I would say. So for example, retail companies where location, because every real estate or every facility has unique spatial implications attached to that. So it is possible under certain special circumstances where the office itself has a inherently strategic qualities to it that are physical, not necessarily organizational. I chose a simple example of a law firm, a professional services company, to introduce my suggested framework. First thing I would do is identify that its goal is that it's a professional service company. And second, in that case, the special strategic resources for that law firm would be primarily highly skilled human capital, branding that markets the quality of service probably, and with those strategic resources identified, office's function is to support those strategic resources, which is to support the highly skilled human capital, support the brand function, and also support the quality of service. And because it is supporting these strategic resources, it would have a potential for strategic importance for your company. So the goal would be in that case is to provide support to retain HR. So for example, top of the line design, coming up with unique equipment, perhaps even linking it with leisure facilities, and communicating marketing and branding, whether it comes through location with prominent signage or very unique features. You want to make a statement, and so offices and real estate becomes a way to support your marketing and branding. Perhaps location becomes an important aspect of your office or your facilities because you want to be close to clients, and depending on where you're located, it communicates as to who your peers are and how convenient you are, conveniently situated you are compared to other clients or even partners. In this kind of case, your cost is relatively low in terms of priority. You are supporting strategic function, which is the essentially the core element of a law firm. And for that, you want to not think about cost as much as how you can support those strategic resources. So design, functions, that's the way to support these elements. Now, if it does become an easily imitable an asset for you, then I would say that your office or your corporate real estate takes on an operational significance. In that case, efficiency and management becomes more important rather than designs and prominent locations and signages.